My mom forgot to save dessert for my son at Thanksgiving. By the time dessert came out, the room smelled like sugar and relief. Plates were cleared, chairs pushed back just enough for comfort. The hard part of being together declared finished. My sister's kids were already asking for seconds before the pie knife had fully settled on the counter. I was pouring water for my son when my mother said it. "Oh, there's no dessert left for him," she said lightly, as if she were explaining a seating mix-up. "He didn't earn it after the way he acted." The way he acted meant he'd asked once why his cousin got to use the iPad when he didn't. No yelling, no tears, just a question that landed wrong. My sister's kids were handed plates anyway. One of them changed their mind halfway through and took a different slice. My mother watched, smiling, as if abundance were proof of something. My son looked at me, confused more than upset. That look, the one that says, "Am I in trouble and I don't know why," hit faster than anger ever does. I waited for myself to argue, to say something reasonable and calm that would be ignored anyway. I waited for my body to do what it had always done. Instead, I stood up. I helped my son into his coat. I knelt to zip it because his hands were full. No one stopped eating. My sister kept talking about a recipe. My mother said, "You don't have to make this a thing." I didn't answer. I kissed my son's head and took his hand. At the door, my father looked up, startled, like he hadn't realized we were still there. "You leaving already?" "Yes," I said. On the drive home, my son asked, "Was I bad?" "No," I said immediately. Too immediately, maybe. "You didn't do anything wrong." He accepted that the way kids do when they want to believe you. He stared out the window, watching houses pass, quiet again. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat on the edge of my bed and replayed it. Not the dessert, the ease with which it was taken away. The certainty behind it. The way discipline had been used as cover for preference. At 10:13 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Dad, transfer the mortgage tomorrow." No hello. No mention of Thanksgiving. Just the assumption that the system would continue to run because it always had. I didn't reply. I lay there longer than I needed to, listening to the house settle. I thought about all the things I had paid for quietly so no one would feel uncomfortable. All the times my help had been framed as obligation, then as expectation, then as leverage. In the morning, I made coffee and packed my son's lunch. I signed into the bank account after he left for school. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I initiated the process to remove myself. The forms were precise. The language was neutral. Systems don't care about holidays or intentions. They care about names, signatures, dates. By noon, I had confirmations. My phone rang while I was folding laundry. "What did you do?" my father asked, his voice tight, controlled in the way that comes just before panic. "I made things accurate," I said. "You can't just—" "I can," I said and meant it, not angrily, factually. "This is because of last night," he said, as if dessert were the headline. "This is because my son learned something last night," I said. "And so did I." There was silence. Not the kind that invites negotiation. The kind that forces adjustment. My mother texted later, "You took it too far." I looked at my son that evening, sprawled on the floor with his homework, humming to himself. He didn't know what money moved where. He only knew that when something felt wrong, we left together. I didn't respond to her. Thanksgiving became a story people told differently depending on who was listening. I let that happen. I stopped correcting the narrative. I stopped smoothing it out. The mortgage transferred. The bills rerouted. The house adjusted to its actual structure instead of the imagined one. Some relationships thinned. Some went quiet. A few tried to reassert old rules with new wording. I didn't fight them. My son still asks questions. Sometimes they're inconvenient. Sometimes they interrupt adult conversations. I answer them anyway. Dessert, I've learned, is rarely about dessert. It's about who gets to decide what someone deserves, and whether you agree to that lesson being taught to your child. That night I chose, and the choice stayed chosen.